extend my thanks to the university, Brother Herrera and the Islamic Society for inviting me to what you will agree with me later on is a very important talk. Now, over the last 3 or 4 months, I have been absolutely worn down with this talk. And the reason is, not because of me as a speaker, it's nothing to do with me, it's about the topic and the talk itself. We've had, in the last 3 or 4 months, I've been delivering this talk up and down the country, and we've had big audiences, because everybody in the audience can actually relate to this topic. You know, there's certain subjects and topics out there, you think, okay, I'll go and listen to this talk, might be increase me in my iman, etc. But this one here, you can actually put your finger on the pulse and say, you know what, I think this relates to me. And I really need to understand what's going on. I'm addicted to social media. So, let me just give you one of my objectives. Whenever I begin this talk, I begin with it's a basic objective for me. And that is this, that from the 40 or 50 odd approximate people sitting here, even if one person leaves today's lecture having taken something back that changes their life in terms of you increase your productivity levels, you minimize the amount of time you spend on social media, and then it adds quality to your life, then I will be the happiest guy on earth. I'm telling you. Because you'll see the research that points out the detrimental effects and harms that social media is having on people and smartphone addiction. So that's my first objective. That even if one person leaves here and says, you know what, I'm going to make a concerted effort now to try and change, and I'm going to start from today, and you actually make those changes, I'll be happy, because your lives will be turned around. You'll be more productive, you'll be less stressed, and there'll be other things. I don't want to give away everything at the moment. You'll see through the research what's going to take place. I always begin this talk by asking a question which I don't necessarily want any of you to put up your hand and answer. It's like a rhetorical question. And I just want you to introspect your own thoughts and feelings when I ask you this question. If I was to begin by asking you all, if you were to pull out your phones from your pockets, your handbags, wherever you have them stored, and you were to give this device here to the person sitting next to you, and vice versa, the person who's sitting next to you, if they were to also give you their phone for 10, 15, 20 minutes, how would that make you feel? And generally, just the mere thought of having to part from our 5-6 inch device makes us feel petrified. And this is the reality of the situation, that these small devices have such an enormous influence on our lives that the mere thought of having to depart from these devices makes us feel shocked, horrified. And that's the reality of the situation. So what is it exactly that we're going to be talking about today? And how are we going to be, how do we navigate this? Onto the other side.
The keyboard or?
Is, just here, I must have tucked that in. Okay, yeah, great. So as you can see, how are we going to navigate through this very important topic? I'm going to come in from different angles. So it's going to be, obviously, you can see from a psychological. First is the science. The psychological impact of smartphones. What's happening inside your heads? What's research stating about what's happening inside your heads? What's happening to us? The neuroscience. We'll be talking about a very important neurotransmitter, chemical, dopamine, gives you that addiction. We'll be talking about narcissism and egoism. Unfortunately, smartphones are the platform for anybody who wants to showcase or project themselves on other people, to have this persona about them. And we see an increasing amount of research that shows that there's an increase in narcissism and egoism. People looking for validation, instant gratification. They're looking for self-praise all the time. And normally, it comes at a cost. We'll be looking at that as well. Instant gratification and validation, which means you want an instant fix. You want immediate validation. You want somebody to, it's almost like getting a sweet. You know, you have a sweet, you feel good. You need to get more and more. That's what instant gratification and validation. We'll be looking at deferred gratification as well. What are the differences between instant validation and deferred, or instant gratification, sorry, and deferred gratification. I'll be really kind of unpacking these concepts, and then we'll look at it from an Islamic perspective. It's very important for those of you who in this room who follow Islam, that as a Muslim, there's a certain journey that we're all undertaking. And we believe that the dunya, the world, is a place where you harvest your actions so that you see them on the Day of Judgment. So you invest and you become proactive in doing all the good deeds and righteous deeds, and you exert yourself. But then how do these smartphones help you on that journey? Do they hinder you? Do you find that you're spending 6-7 hours a day just endlessly browsing when you could have been doing something productive? We'll be looking at that as well. And I'll be giving you some solutions, because if I don't give you any solutions, and I'm not joking, many of you will be leaving this room depressed because of the amount of research out there, especially your age. Unfortunately, there's a lot of research about 18 to 24-year-olds. If I don't give you any practical solutions, spiritual solutions, and some technological solutions, then, like I said, you're going to be leaving here all quite depressed. So that's something to look forward to towards the end, that you will be getting some solutions. So, I always begin it's almost like a disclaimer. So I always begin, it's a bit of a disclaimer, by saying, because there's going to be somebody in the audience saying, Brother Waseem, you said all this about smartphones, you said this, they're detrimental to you, they're this, they're that, but there are some positive uses for smartphones. So let's get this slide out the way first, that there are positive use for smartphones. So from an Islamic perspective, if we look at it from an Islamic perspective, they're very good when it comes to supplementing your learning. If you decide to do certain things, like if you wanted to memorize the Quran, you can have a teacher, and then alongside having a teacher, you can download certain apps that allow you to, on the bus, in the car, you wake up in the morning, you can actually listen to reciters, you can actually repeat and memorize. So there's certain apps that can facilitate and supplement your learning when it comes to Islamic or even any science, any discipline. Whether you want to learn any other discipline, it could be worldly knowledge. If I was to ask you what's the approximate population of China now, you can pull out your phone and you can just have a quick look and tell me. So there's good quick access to knowledge. Also, you can do online banking. You don't have to queue up. Like my parents used to say in the old days, you had to go all the way to the bank and you had this book and you had to queue up and you had to get it stamped, how much money. You can actually make transactions using your phone. You can receive money, you can make payments without necessarily having to go all the way to the bank. You can even do online shopping, hence the high street is being affected. You don't have to queue up to go to wherever you go to shop. There's designer outlets, so you want to go to Debenhams and main high street stores. Wherever you go, you don't have to go, because you can actually browse online and you can have it delivered to your houses. And also you can make lots of money. Online business. You can sell things, like people are selling things on Shpock, eBay, Amazon. So I'm sure you'll agree with me that there are many positive uses that we can align with having a smartphone with. But the key question is, before we go on to the next slide, how many of us are actually using the phones for this purpose? Let's see what research states. And we're looking at some research collected by Statista.com, kind of social scientific kind of research. They look at certain trends in society. So they wanted to focus on social media usage. And they exposed some worrying results. This was in October. Maybe they've slightly fluctuated the figures. But you have 2.23 billion monthly active users on Facebook across the globe. In the Western world, in the East, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, you have 2.23 billion people who are engaging on Facebook. Now what does that mean? Some results or some statistics state that people spend at least 5 to 6 hours a day endlessly scrolling, wasting their lives watching the lives of other people go by. So they've even changed the metric. They don't say scrolling for hours anymore. They say you've been scrolling for miles. You've scrolled from here to London and back. That's 6 to 7 hours a day on average people. So 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours perhaps in the evening, an hour right in the middle of the night. About approximately 6 to 7 hours a day people are scrolling on smartphones and social media sites. So 2.23 billion, what does that equate? Well, Christianity has about 2 billion global followers. Yet there are more people who go on Facebook than Christianity. Islam has 1.8 billion approximately followers. So there's more people, just to give you an understanding of how many people are engaged on social media. YouTube 1.9, WhatsApp 1.5, Facebook Messenger, you can see poor old Snapchat doesn't even make it. Snapchat is around 200 million maybe monthly active users, or 150. These results are now exposing some worrying results. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at now. The endless engagement. Surely there's something happening to us psychologically, physiologically, emotionally. There's a lot of things happening. Let's see what research states, what is actually happening. First thing is you become addicted. Let's go through these 6 signs of social media addiction and try and relate to ourselves whether or not we fall into this category. The first one is that you have a constant urge to check your phone every few minutes. And you're not even waiting for anything. There's no real reason, like it's not your partners who's called you. Look, you dropped her off or him off somewhere, and they're saying we're gonna pick me up in half an hour. So you're always waiting. Are they phoning me to say that they're here? It's nothing like that. You're not expecting anything, but there's something taking place inside your brain. There's a dialogue which is urging you to check your phone. So what is this? What scientists say is that dialogue, that chatter, releases cortisol in your brain. Some of you who are studying the medicines and stuff, the sciences, you know cortisol is like a stress chemical. And what that does, it makes you anxious. It makes you nervous. You need to reduce that stress. There's that chatter going on. Go and check your phone. Maybe you've got a like. Maybe somebody's messaged you. Maybe somebody's sent you an SMS, WhatsApp, whatever it is. And 9 out of 10 times, to reduce that cortisol level, to reduce that stress, you put your hand in your pocket, you pull it out, and lo and behold, there's nothing at all. Then 15 minutes later, it starts again. Dialogue, come on, have a look. Maybe there's something happening there. You go and you take it out and there's nothing. So then, this is the first thing, that you have this constant urge to check your phone every few minutes. There's a condition called phantom vibration syndrome, which means that people are so addicted that they think that they hear the phone vibrating in their pocket. I'm not joking, this is so, and this is how serious the condition is, that they actually feel that there's a notification and what do they do? They check and there's nothing there. It's called phantom vibration syndrome. Check it out later when you get time. The second thing is when there's no Wi-Fi or no internet, for you it's the end of the world. You could be in the most amazing place, the most scenic, the most beautiful place. You could be up in the hills and mountains, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, there's no Wi-Fi. I need to check out what's going on. You can't disconnect or detach. You can't be in the here and the now. And from a spiritual perspective, from an Islamic perspective, let me give you one example of things that I've seen. People who are familiar with Hajj and Umrah. You know, it's a spiritual journey. People, they go from different parts of the world, and when they get to a certain boundary, which is about 30 miles before you go to Makkah, you enter the state of miqat, the state of ihram, where you down or you put on 2 sheets, and you begin to start, and you make an intention, and then your focus is that you are in the state of pilgrimage, and your main focus should be to get to Makkah, to do tawaf around the Kaaba, and then to do some other rituals, and then in 2 or 3 hours you are finished, and then that's your main objective. Should be. What's happening now? So people, they go into the state of ihram, they go into miqat, they start doing the talbiyah. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk. So they're saying, Allah, we are here, we are at your service, we're here for the pilgrimage. They arrive in Jeddah, they get into their transport, whatever it is, a coach, a bus. They go to their hotel. Remember, they're on a pilgrimage. They arrive at the hotel, they check in, and then instead of saying, okay, guys, we're going to go there, we're going to enter the Kaaba, they make a dash, and I've seen this. They make a dash for the reception, and they are bombarding the receptionist with, can you give us the Wi-Fi password, please? Please, we've been traveling from America, England, wherever, for the last 10, 12 hours. We're in a we call it an alien country now. We haven't got any SIMs, but we need internet access. So they almost become oblivious to where they are, and the main thing on their brain at that moment in time is not doing the pilgrimage, it's about Wi-Fi. I've been offline for 7, 8 hours. I want to see who's WhatsApped me. I want to see who sent me a Facebook message. I just need to, I can't wait 3 hours until I finish my pilgrim. Please give me the Wi-Fi password. That's what's happening. The third thing is, you have to announce every hour what you're doing on social media. You have to. Every hour. I'm here now. An hour later, I'm doing this. An hour later, I'm eating this. An hour later, I've touched this. I've smelt this. I've done this. You have to announce every hour what you're doing. We'll talk about that later, what that is. The fourth one is, you wake up in the night, you check the phone, and that's the first thing in the morning. So there's a habit that's being formed now. So the last thing you do, you're going to sleep, you're on your pillow now, you're scrolling. Then you put the phone under your pillow, or on your, under your pillow generally is where it goes, it's more safer. And then what happens? In the morning, first action is, left hand, pull it out the pillow, then you resume scrolling. You don't just like say, you know what, I'm going to come back to the phone in about an hour. You go downstairs, let me freshen up. No, first thing is you continue from where you left off and you carry on. In fact, sometimes if you've had a disturbed sleep in the middle of the night, some people have a disturbed sleep and they do something, they go downstairs and come back up, or they'll read a book, they'll bring the phone back out and they continue scrolling. That's another sign that we're addicted, that the brain is not switching off. The fifth one is you secretly spend hours during work, so you're willing to risk jeopardizing your job. Oh, the manager's here, pretend you're working. Manager's gone, have a quick look. And in a normal 8-hour shift, between 40 minutes to an hour, secretly over that time, you've spent on social media. Now from an Islamic perspective, I'm sure other religions will be the same. The scholars say that this is a breach of trust. And some of the scholars even question the wage that you take home when you feed your family with. That if you are earning and you're supposed to be working, and then there's a breach of trust, where your employer expects you to be working, and then when he goes, you carry on doing this, and then you have to even question your income. Is it from halal means? But we are willing to do that. Why? Because of social media addiction. And the last one is, you anxiously wait to see how many likes you get. This is where we start getting the psychological issues, So if your post doesn't perform as well, if your picture doesn't perform as well, it sets off real anxieties. It really affects your mood. You've uploaded something and nobody's liked it, or it hasn't done as well as you would have expected, and what happens? It makes you feel uncomfortable. Your mood's changed. You were fine half an hour ago, you've uploaded something, people are saying, well, everything okay? You're like, yeah. What's going on? We'll take a look what's going on. It's affecting you emotionally, it's affecting you psychologically. So let's look at it from a studies perspective now, from a student's perspective. This was research done in 2010, Harrisburg University, America. And, know, subhanAllah, this was back in 2010. This was when now social media is on a different level. It was affecting students back in 2010. So they did an experiment. They said, you know what? We want to give up Facebook and other social media for a week because we feel that it may be hampering the way we are progressing. I think there's a bit of a distraction. So why don't we give it up for a week and see whether or not we perform better? Okay? The results are in front of you. They felt less stressed and they felt more attentive to coursework. So just say, you know, generally when you're in a lecture theatre, when the lecturer's talking, generally people are not focused because they've got something to distract them, and this is what the result showed in Harrisburg University 2010, that they felt stressed and less stressed and more attentive, and 25% of students reported better concentration, and they found the lectures more stimulating, more interesting. That's exactly what's happening. Let's take that out from just the university realm and take it to any other setting. Whether you've gone to an Islamic lecture, whether you've gone to any other lecture, do you think, are we really focusing, concentrating and enjoying what we're supposed to be if we have these with us? And every 5-10 minutes we're looking at the phones. We're not giving our 100%. Other research states that if you're working now, so you're working and you're in the flow and your train of thought is there and you're writing paragraph upon paragraph, you're in the zone, and then you can't help yourself, then you say, you know what, I need to just check my phone for a bit. You check your phone and there's nothing really there, and then after about 5 minutes, oh, okay, go back. According to research, it will take you 20 minutes just to recalibrate your train of thought. Just to, where was I? Okay, I was in the zone, oh gosh, what was I doing? 20 minutes, guys. Imagine the lack of productivity. Imagine you were in the zone, but because we were tempted, we couldn't help ourselves, we had a quick browse, nothing happening, and then it takes you 20 minutes. Imagine how many times a day we are doing this. So then we have to now start beginning to understand, as we're unpacking this a bit further, that, hey, it's affecting our concentration. It's affecting our focus. I could be more productive, but what's holding me back is this little device here. What else is happening here? Let's look at it from a psychological perspective, guys. And this is this one here, because I do different audiences. Some could be old people, young people, different settings, mosque settings, community center settings. But this one, guys, is more relevant to you guys. So I'm sorry to say, but this is the next one. This was research done in the exhibited in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology in 2014. The top 3 diagnosis on university campuses for people aged between 18 and 24 was linked to social media use, and these were stress, anxiety, depression. No, there was no stress because of, you know, where's the next meal going to come from? I'm finding it difficult as a student. I've been a student, I know it's difficult. It's not depression because of whatever other factor, I can't afford the books, whatever. No, it's stress because of Instagram. It's depression because of Facebook. And it's anxiety because of Snapchat. That's exactly what's happening to us now. That whilst we still have all the stresses of work and the assignments and the modules, what's keeping us distracted are these things, and as a result, we're building up stress, anxiety, and depression. That's one thing. Then also the wanting to look a certain part. Am I too dark? Am I too light? Am I too fat? Am I too thin? What does society say? Because society dictates. And if you don't conform to a society based on what's going on social media, you will start feeling insecure. You will start feeling insecure about yourself, and this is what normally happens in university campuses. As you begin to learn about yourself, as you're developing and growing, you're influenced by these things, and generally this is what research is showing, that all these normal factors of growing up, they've piled on this thing called smartphone use, and it's messing up our youngsters. So, I mean, the key question I ask is this: if this is what's happening, and this is the research, you know, what's going to happen to the next generation of doctors, teachers, lawyers, accountants, pharmacists, opticians? if they're already stressed and depressed because of this, then how are we going to be functioning as a society in 20, 30 years' time? Because these were only around 10, 15 years ago, maybe. Before that, everybody was fine. They weren't as stressed as this. So imagine when you graduate, and emotionally, if you're affected, you've got depression, you've got anxiety, you've got stress, then how are you going to be, or how are we going to be functioning as a society in 30 years' time? It's something to think about. This is what's happening from that perspective. Okay, so I'm going to just take you on a journey by a smartphone addict. You need to see if maybe any of you relate to this. So I wanted to create a fictional character, but his actions are something which fall into a smartphone addict's type of behaviors. So we call him SA, a pseudonym, because I didn't want to call him like Mohammed or Ahmed or Khadija or Jane or whatever, because if somebody who's called that in the audience, then somebody keeps sniggering and saying, oh, that's you, you know, I've been there, I've seen all that. So I just said, let's call it generic, let's call it SA. So smartphone addict, he wakes up in the morning and he pulls out his smartphone under his pillow, although he was up till 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah? So his eyes are bloodshot red, and he still cannot resist the urge to pick up his phone, and he continues to scroll again. And then despite suffering from a restless night, he posts something on social media about how productive he is. So even though he's in his bed in his pajamas, he gets a nice image from Google, something like the early bird catches the worm, puts it on there, and then it's gone, and then everybody's saying, oh, mashallah, brother Waseem, great, go out there, thinking that he's jogging or he's gone. And whilst he's just lying in bed and enjoying the likes and the comments and the shares. That's the smartphone addict. And generally, at that time, they miss out on valuable parts of the day, such as if he was a father, he doesn't get a chance to see his kids go to school because he's in bed. He should be downstairs with the family. He's detached from the family. But look at the relationship impact as well later on. But this is the day in the life. So this is how the smartphone addict begins his day. So when you start looking at this behavior and seeing whether that's us. When we wake up in the morning, do we just like yawn, stretch and jump out of bed, or are we yawning, stretching and grabbing the phone and staying in bed for 20 minutes, half an hour? That's something we need to look at. Okay, so let's introduce this dopamine. Many of you may be familiar with dopamine. Dopamine was something that's software engineers used to use, or tap into. These gaming people many years ago, they used to have things like gambling machines. So gambling machines used to have those things because dopamine is linked to the part of the brain that's to do with the reward and pleasure circuits. So they would have flashing lights, the sounds. You put £1 in, there's a possibility that you could win £30, and you can hear the clunk, clunk, clunk. The brain begins to become addicted. The dopamine is just pumped around the brain. And then that slowly evolved into games, and then evolved slowly into these things that we hold in our hands now. So, Sean Parker, the 38-year-old founding president of Facebook, and I think this was done back in 2005. Yeah, he resigned in 2005 from Facebook. And he actually admitted, he said, Facebook wasn't created to unite us. It was created to distract us. How? He said, we play on the vulnerability of your psychology, the human weakness, the brain, because that's what they do, these software engineers. How can we make more money? How do we get these people addicted? How do we get them glued? Easy. He said, every time you upload something, every time somebody likes, comments, or shares your picture post, we give you a little dopamine hit. It's like you get a sweet every time you get a like. That's what it is. And that's what keeps you addicted. You're just stuck in your phone now. You don't want to, you want more. It's just absolutely, it's hardwiring your brain. Dopamine is pumped around the brain. And that's just Facebook. Then you've got Instagram now, Snapchat, you've got all these things, and even games. You've got games like Fortnite and all that. You've got all these things. But what's central to everything is the role of dopamine. That's exactly how they've got us, that every time you have this is the dopamine hit. That's why people are hooked. That's why people are transfixed and they don't want to. So now you can see just a rough little image. For every like or share, dopamine is pumped around the brain and you feel good. and this kind of hardwires your brain. You're getting conditioned over time, you know? Neural pathways are created. I know many of you may know what neural pathways are. Let me just give you a novice kind of a background to what neural pathways are for those of you who don't understand. It's like, the best example I can give, it's like, just say you're walking on you come across a barren piece of land, normal grass where nobody's trodden on before. And then if you were to start walking on that piece of grass, back and forth, for about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes for 2-3 days, then and other people start walking on that piece of grass, over a week or so, you will see that a path is formed, right? So this is exactly what happens over time when dopamine is pumped. Neural pathways are formed, and then that becomes your behavior. It becomes your habit. You need that. That's second nature. Then you have to wake up in the morning, you have to pull the phone out. That is hard wiring. That's neural pathways, they're formed. And according to research, to change those neural pathways and to start a new habit, it takes about 60 odd days, guys. So the first thing we have to do is make sure we don't ingrain in our minds certain neural pathways which are going to be counterproductive to the way we operate. Yeah? Which stop us from being productive. So this is what happens. This is how dopamine is pumped, and you want the instant gratification. You want the hit. You want the buzz, and you become addicted. Do you understand what's going on? Anybody not understand what dopamine is? Or you can all relate to this, right? I don't know anybody, I haven't come across anybody who, when they get a like or a comment or a share for something good, they feel angry. Oh my God, he's liked my post again. Yeah? Oh my God, I've got 1,000 shares. Oh. No, you feel good. Yeah? Pump it. That's exactly what's happening. You're doing anything. Anything. There was something I was reading on BBC News a few years ago. There have even been some deaths reported where people wanted to take extreme selfies just to make it go viral. Yeah? People taking extreme selfies, they'll go onto the top of a edge of a cliff or something and they'll hold it and then like that, and some people actually die. Because when you do come out of that without time, they do go viral. And they want that whole thing about going viral, getting that validation, getting that gratification, they're even willing to risk their lives. So guys, that was a brief introduction to dopamine, and then that kind of transcends into the gaming industry. So for those of you who used to play games when you were young, this is basically what it was. This is the software engineers, that's how they've got all the youngsters hooked. Yeah? So every type of game, it's all about the rewards. You get to the end of the level, you're happy, next one, and it's pumping. Dopamine is pumping. You can't even leave your house rooms. People are on games for 10 hours a day. On holidays, not like school time, right? 10 hours a day. Because of the dopamine. What's around the corner? What if I break that box? What's inside that box? What is it? Is it more lives? Is it energy bar? Whatever it is, it's dopamine being pumped around the brain. So Fortnite is one game. 125 million users, 40 million monthly players. This game here, I just pulled out 3 methods that the developers use to draw on the dopamine, or to pump that dopamine. The first one is this. They give you the ability or the autonomy to choose your character or how the person's going to dress, male, female, whatever, what weapons you're going to have. And this choice that you're given will pump dopamine in your brain. So the choice of being in charge, it pumps dopamine. So I know sometimes, I think now you have to just pay or something, but they give you the position, the ability to be in charge. You have the choice, you can choose this weapon, you can dress like this, you can have this, you can have that. So automatically dopamine is pumped. Second way is that you are able to play with multiple people from the comfort of your own house. So how does this affect the youngsters? Easy. You're 12, 14, secondary school, and you're playing, and Hamza comes online. Hamza's from your class. So Hamza comes online, so naturally it's human nature, you want to compete, You want to do well, so on Monday when you go back to school, you become the talking point. Hamza, did you see the way I got to level 4? Wow. It increases competitiveness, and as a result, what happens? More dopamine. It's that competitive spirit. That's the second. And the third one is, you'll see those who play Fortnite, you get those boxes every other 5-10 minutes or around the corners. You want to break the box. What is it? What type of weapon is in that box? Is it going to enhance your energy? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? So they've strategically placed boxes, and your brain, your dopamine is pumping. You want to know what's in the box. When you get it, more dopamine, more pumping, more conditioning, more hardwiring. And then when mummy calls, I know you're too old for mummies to call you now, but the youngsters, mummy calls, the food's ready. Okay, I'll be down in 5 minutes. Half an hour later, mum's come upstairs and the food's gone cold. And some of the responses of the youngsters are shocking, because they're that addicted, they begin shouting at their parents, the mothers. Get off, can't you see I'm playing? That's how, and then it affects their emotional levels as well. We've had so many cases of parents getting that kind of stuff. Okay, so what are the side effects? The World Health Organization said, this is shocking, that they've classified gaming disorder as a mental health condition. Why? Because people are spending 10 to 15 hours a day in front of some video games. Basically, they're vegetating, like jacket potatoes. And they're not developing, because games don't develop you. They don't enhance your learning. You don't become creative. You're not writing. You're not actually, you're just there, vegetating. Getting your dopamine fix for 10, 15 hours a day. So the World Health Organization, they've called it a mental health condition. And what's worse is, and especially in light of the events that unfolded last week, but this was something in 2011, 24-year-old Tristan van der Vliet, I don't know if I'm saying that right, he opened fire in a shopping mall, okay? So you can imagine 2011, a person with no links to any kind of radical movements or groups, and there's nothing wrong with him, and he's gone and he's killed people, and when they've arrested him and they've done a background, what's no mental health condition. What's happened? Because all I used to do was play the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, a game where you just go around shooting people. And what happens? It conditions you over time, and the way you begin to start seeing the world changes. You have a paradigm shift. That's the dangerous bit here, guys. Because if you keep doing, if a person keeps playing games and he has a certain vision of the world based on what he's doing, he will go out and reenact that, thinking he's part of the game. And that was 2011. And I'm sure the games are more sophisticated now than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It feels like you're actually there. You can actually feel, the way they move things, the way they, all these, the sophistication, the way they've done the games. So imagine what's happening to the next generation of game players. Yeah, they're almost like dying for violence, because they're so consumed in it. They want to go out there and they want to reenact, basically, what the brain has already been conditioned towards. Okay, let's go back to Mr. Smartphone Addict. So now we've understood dopamine and the link of dopamine. We're going back to Smartphone Addict. So he comes downstairs eventually, and he begins to snack on his breakfast, but he doesn't have the opportunity to enjoy his breakfast and chat to his wife, mother, husband, whatever, if it's a woman. What does he do? He's eating, he's crunching it, whatever it is, and he's going through his Snapchat account, Facebook account, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So he doesn't even have the opportunity to enjoy his meal. And he's just consumed for half an hour, and then he gets up and goes. Imagine living that type of life, that you can't even look at your food and eat and enjoy the food, that you're just like almost like robotic, because your mind is. So that's the Smartphone Addict, and we'll come back to him later. That's how he begins his day. So now we're beginning to understand that dopamine has a vital role in the way these smartphones are a form of addiction. Yeah? These software engineers, very clever people. When they want to make money, they look at the human psyche, the vulnerability in the human psyche, and that's what they've done. So the key question is, now that you know this, is it about willpower now? They can say, okay, I'm going to minimize the amount of time I'm going to go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I know I get a little dopamine hit. But now it's all about mind over matter. because it's affecting my productivity levels, it's affecting my health. I could have done a bit of jogging in the morning, could have done a bit of book reading in the morning, could have done writing. What I'm doing is this. Okay, I'm going to use my mental faculty of being strong, and I'm going to overcome this. Let's see how the brain, if it is really in a position to do this. Very famous research that was done by a man in the 60s called Walter Mitchell. It's spelled Mitchell, but it's pronounced Mitchell, and it's a very famous one called the marshmallow theory. So what's the marshmallow theory? He wanted to understand human behavior. He wanted to understand whether or not, if you were given something now, and you were told, here, have something now, it's yours, something that delights you, something that's a form of temptation, so you can have it now. Or if you want to wait for half an hour, control yourself, then we'll give you double. Yeah? It's called instant gratification or deferred gratification. Yeah? So he wanted to understand this behavior. So what did he do? He had a research center, and he got 50 odd children from the ages of 5 to 8. He called them in. He had secret hidden cameras in each room, in like a booth kind of room. And he placed each child in one room, and he said, here. Just say, imagine that's a marshmallow or a sweet. He placed that in front. Let's make it red, because that looks more like a sweet, right? Nobody eat that, please. He placed that there, and he said, look, that's yours. And the participants' eyes lit up. Remember, they're all separate. They were by themselves. He said, look, that's a marshmallow. That's yours. I'm going to leave the room for 10 minutes. When I come back, if I see that the marshmallow is still there, you haven't ate it, I will give you 2 marshmallows. Right? Do you understand? Instant gratification, meaning do they want it now and say we don't care, or defer, do they wait for it, control themselves and say, I can't wait for 10 minutes, I'll get 2. Yeah? Let's see the results. The first group, who made up kind of the overwhelming majority, about 30, before he even turned his back and had the opportunity to leave, they picked up the marshmallow and they gobbled it up. They're only 5 or 6, yeah? Human nature. You have something that's tempting you right in front of you, even if you know you have to sacrifice, but they couldn't. That was the first group. The second group, when the researcher went, they waited patiently. Nobody's looking. And they didn't realize there were hidden cameras. They picked up the sweet and they licked it. Get a bit of sugar and put it back. Yeah? And waited patiently like this. Right? When they came back, I was, give us 2. We haven't done, look, it's still there. Try to be a bit crafty. SubhanAllah, the third group only made up about 8. From them, half of them, they picked up the sweet and they placed it away from where their eyes could not see. A concept called out of sight, out of mind. They picked it up, stop, focus, and they waited 10 minutes. The others, they didn't even bother physically touching. What did they do? They just turned their bodies away and they closed their eyes and they waited for 10 minutes. Now, Walter Mitchell wanted to understand the choices that they made. How did these choices impact them in their behavior as adults in their adult lives? So he followed them for 30 years. 30 years. The first group, unfortunately, who couldn't resist, they didn't do well at school, they didn't do well at college, they didn't even get to university or college. They had really bad relationships, in and out of jobs. They were what you would see as people who didn't really have a vision or focus in life. The second group, although they did well in life in terms of they did well in jobs and careers, etc., they did have 1 or 2 financial hits or episodes in their lives which were to do with whatever it was. Maybe it was their gambling nature. Maybe they did a VAT scam or something, but they had 1 or 2. Yeah, it was good. Let's do this. They had a few hits. But the successful group, who did really well, Well, the third group, they did amazing at school. They went on to college, university, had great careers, had great relationships, had great families, and they had a great circle of friends. Those who had what? The focus or the concept of deferred gratification. Not to be distracted by, here, take it now. No, I have a focus to want something bigger, better later. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to resist the temptation, the urge when it presents itself to me. This is a concept even in Islam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى, that the akhirah, the afterlife, is better for you. Relax, pump the brakes. Don't go chasing the dunya, especially when it violates your soul, your spirit, when you do those things which are not right. Because sometimes the body, the heart, the desires yearn for something, but it could be immoral, it could be wrong. God is saying, look, these are prohibitions which are placed in the dunya, but in the akhirah you can have that which no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart of mind can comprehend in heaven, but just pump the brakes in the dunya. And then it falls onto us again. Are we from the first group? No, but I still want it. Or are we of those who take a step back, reassess everything, and say, you know, I'm going to work harder. I know this is affecting me. I want deferred gratification. I don't want the instant gratification of going onto the smartphones, getting a quick dopamine hit, getting a bit. It's not. I want to use those extra 4 hours a day that I could save, and I want to start doing. So this is something to show you that we have this concept of instant gratification and deferred gratification, and this is closely linked to smartphone use, because everybody is after what? The instant gratification. So the key conclusion from this part is that if you have those mental powers like the third group, then you are you're off to a great start in life. You're well on way. Like the third group. If you say, you know what, I am going to go on social media, but I'm going to go on half an hour in the morning, half an hour towards the evening, about 6 o'clock, 1 hour a day, fantastic. You've spared yourself 5 hours a day. That's 35 hours a week. Imagine that. But if you say, no, I just want to, but then, you know, we end up like that group. Anyway, how is it impacting and affecting us from a relationship perspective? The roles could be turned here. On this occasion, it's the husband who's looking down, and the wife is saying, look, do you want me to really strap the phone on my forehead so you actually acknowledge me? You look at me, because you're just absorbed in your phone. You're not even looking at me. And sadly, and we just focus on the first picture first, on the left-hand side, it's killed the art of communication. No smartphones. You can go to any restaurant, you can go to any cafe. You don't really get the buzz you used to get many years ago, because even the cafe owners say, look guys, please, they put signs on saying, please, no smartphones, because they say when we walk in to serve you, want to hear people talking, people smiling, people, oh, we see 4 people around a table just going through the phones, and this, what's going on? And that's exactly what happens. It kills the art of communication. You go to your parents, your mothers, your family get-togethers on a Sunday or a Saturday. 10 people around a table. Normally it would have been, how's your week been? How's things? But no, everybody's absorbed in their phones, and it affects relationships. Really, it does. Second picture there on the left with the lady clutching the pillow. Unfortunately, this is the other thing about smartphones. That it breeds jealousy. It breeds envy. How? Because you see, when you are on the receiving end, or you are looking at certain pictures, it's only a 1 second snapshot of somebody's life which they've engineered. Yeah? It's not the real how they're living, but because that's impacting you, what you're saying, God, Sheila's taken another picture, she's in Beverly Hills today, she's in Paris the next day, she's with her husband in a restaurant the following week, and I'm stuck here in Sheffield every day. And what happens, it makes you reanalyze and reassess your life, and you think, you know what, how are people living, and look at my life. And then you become what? Unhappy with your life. You become unhappy with your partner, you become unhappy with your the house, the car, wherever, because you just got 1 second snapshot of somebody smiling. And even though, you know, a couple could be their worst enemies, but then they say, let's have a quick picture, like that, and then, okay, go back now, move away. And then people are looking at us saying, oh gosh, I wish we could be living like that. Yeah? And it does, it lets off real anxiety. So that's what happens. That's the second. And the third one is the man, unfortunately, he can't sleep. Why? Because the level of melatonin in the brain, melatonin, obviously some of you who are studying medicine or doctors, whatever you're trying to be budding doctors, you know that this chemical increases as you get ready to go to sleep. Yeah? It's something that Allah has created naturally inside us. That, so even in the winter, why do people feel tired at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening? Because when it's dark, those conditions are conducive for you to go to sleep. It sets off melatonin and you are ready to go to sleep. Right? What happens is when you do retire to go to sleep, you're in bed, you can't resist, and you're looking at that light, which suppresses the level of melatonin in your brain. You will never get to sleep. That's why they say have some hot chocolate milk or whatever, and then just retire to bed. You'll be knocked out. If you went to bed at 8 o'clock, you'll be snoring at 9. But if you take if you take one of these smartphone devices with you, which emits that light, you will not sleep till about 11, 12 o'clock, because it suppresses the level of melatonin. Even if you do switch it off and you're ready to go to sleep, your brain is not going to switch off. Why? Your brain is going to process and reprocess the content, the information. It's going to really strip away and analyze what it saw. What did he mean by that WhatsApp message? What did she mean by that email? Because the brain doesn't sleep, it doesn't switch off straight away. That's why, when we were young, the TVs were the big things. Like they were saying, look, if you want your child to go to sleep, make sure they don't watch TV 2 or 3 hours before they go to sleep. Because they're watching Walt Disney or Mickey Mouse or whatever, and then 8 o'clock the brain's excited. It takes about an hour or two for the brain to process everything again, and then the brain slowly shuts down, ready for sleep. Imagine we're taking these devices with us to sleep. We're watching some high adrenaline car chase on YouTube or some fight, and then you think we're just going to switch off and go to sleep. You can't sleep. Then what happens in the morning? Groggy, tired, unproductive. And we're not talking one-off, we're talking consistently. There's a pattern that develops. And after a week or two, you're not what you used to be. You've got no energy, your immune system is down, you keep getting colds and stuff. So this is what's happening to relationships and to your body. This was Sweden's largest Facebook study in 2012, the one with the icon here, the great icon on Facebook. The more you're on Facebook, the lower your self-esteem. That was 2012. Now there's more research coming out to show you that it's really bad for you. Why? Because again, like I mentioned before, you begin to question your life. She's living great, he's living great, they're living great. Look what I've got. And you become depressed, and you become jealous. And hence this man here, he's jealous. Even from an Islamic perspective, even from a Islamic, Abrahamic tradition perspective, even if you look at it from the life of Yusuf alayhi salam, Joseph in the Bible, you've got in the Quran as well. What led to the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam to throw him in the well? Try and kill him, which he survived. What was it? Jealousy. And they were, should I tell you who these brothers, look at the lineage. Ibrahim alayhi salam, great grandfather. Ishaq, grandfather. Jacob, Yaqub, the father. And then the sons Yusuf and his brothers. Look at the lineage, look at the upbringing on morality and the spirituality and stuff. Yet still, their hearts were affected because they said, Dad keeps loving Yusuf too much. What about us? Who do you think he is? You know what? Let's do him. Let's deck him and throw him in there and say, Dad, a wolf took him. If they were willing and they did go to those means to do that, and they were from prophetic household, do you really think when you upload all these things about, look at my car, look at my shirt, look at my trousers, look at my suit, look at my car, do you think people are saying, yes, they will give you compliments, but deep down they're going to be thinking, after a certain period of time, they're thinking, who does this guy think he is? Who does she think she is? And it breeds jealousy. Really, this is the human nature. Unfortunately, over time, it breeds jealousy. And there's some research towards that as well. So as long as you now are beginning to understand how it affects relationships and stuff. So now we're moving over to the third topic. We're nearly there now, the concept, and this is about narcissism. So we've understood the psychological impact, the dopamine, how people want instant gratification, and now let's talk about narcissism. It's all about projecting yourself in a certain way, so you get so many admirers. People saying, "Oh, you're such a great guy." So how does he do it? He's en route to work, right? And he sees a stranded motorist, and he pulls the car up. "Hi mate, what's going on?" "Oh, I've run out of petrol. Petrol station's about half a mile away. Do you mind giving me a lift?" "Sure, jump in." Jumps in, takes him to the petrol station. He fills in his 2.5 litres because he can't get more than that. Drives back, round, watches him. He puts the petrol in, turns the car starts, thumbs up. The narcissist, or the smartphone addict, "Don't go yet. Do you mind if I take a picture with you?" And the man's thinking, "Oh, what's wrong with the picture?" "Yeah, let's have a picture." He takes a picture. Then he tells the man thank you, goes back to his car, and then he begins to construct a post. All the nice grammar, the paragraphs. It's important to help out fellow humanity because you don't know when you might need help. Yeah? And then he's sitting there and his eyes light up when he starts getting all the comments. "Oh, brother Waseem, you're such a great guy. If there were more people like you on the streets, society would be such a great place." And he's gosh, dopamine is on a different level. He lights up. And all his day is spent, or her day is spent, looking at that, the comments, the shares. It's going viral, and he's like, whereas he could have just done it, yeah? We've got a lot of people who are homeless these days. You can buy them a coffee, you can talk to them, but then imagine engineering. "Okay, I'm just going to go on Facebook Live, I'm just going to go and talk to this poor man here. What's going on? We've lost the sincerity to do things solely for the pleasure of Allah, for the pleasure of God. We want to showcase and project something so that we win over and we get our little what? Dopamine hit. Our dopamine fix. So this is what's going on, and there's so much research. So all these sites, Facebook is about like me, listen to me, hire me, watch me. It's all about showcasing yourself and projecting yourself about how great you are. And the sad thing is, this is what's actually happening in society. All these things that I mentioned here, they are happening, and it's causing society to become what? Counterproductive. All these things. Maybe some of you here are immune to these. Maybe you're protected from these elements and you're not on social media as much. But the vast majority of society they've got these issues now, unfortunately. They've got depression, they've got anxiety, they feel insecure, they want to showcase their good deeds, they want to just do something just to, showcase themselves, self-interest. All these things are happening. And like I said, there's so much. I'm not really going to touch up on this too much, but it's linked to social media, increases narcissism and negativity, it affects self-esteem, and all this research is out there about to present oneself as somebody who's really competent and amazing, everything. And you can really study that yourself, but unfortunately it's sad. Okay, let's look at, before we look at Mr. Scarface meme, let's look at Nicholas Carr. And I mentioned this before about jealousy. He did some research called "Is Social Media Making Us Hate Each Other?" And he concluded that as we get more information about other people, yes, we get more information, you start seeing a person on your timeline all the time, you tend to like them less, not more. Over time, not straight away. You say, "Oh, he's a great guy." And then a week later, and every day you're seeing something around, you say, he's an okay guy. He's a not so great guy a month later. And then 2 months later, "God, get off my Facebook." That's research showing that the more we see a person showcasing, we tend to like them less. And then what does that do? That causes insecurity to the narcissist. Because how many times have you seen these kind of captions? When they don't get that kind of love reciprocated, "Oh, brother Waseem, keep up the good work, you're doing great." People don't give you that, then you get these kind of messages coming on. Yeah? You're scratching your head, you're thinking, the same guy a few days ago was saying, Alhamdulillah, Allah's blessed me, I'm living great, I'm so peaceful and happy. But then when they start seeing that their likes are going down, they become insecure and they start saying, I have enemies out there. People don't like me more. You know why? Because they're feeling insecure. So this is something that's taking place. And he says, one of my biggest mistakes in life is believing people show me the same love I've shown them. Okay? So what do you normally do? You don't feed the narcissist. You don't become narcissistic supply. Because every time you like and you share somebody who's got these characteristics of narcissism, you're just massaging their ego. You're making them grow. So this is something you don't do. And yeah. And when you speak to the narcissist, this is Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, they're in denial. They say, brother, do you have to show all your good deeds? You know, do you have to wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and you have to like, you know, you wake somebody else up and say, okay, hold the camera, I'm going to pray now, Allahu Akbar, and then play that, and then you put it on Facebook, only the chosen ones get up for the night. Oh, stop doing this now. And it's like, oh, you're jealous of me, right? I'm just giving dawah. So you leave that person because they're in denial. They just want that praise and all that. So they will become upset, they'll become reactionary, they'll try and justify their behavior and stuff like that. So you leave that person because that person, if they're a narcissist, that's what happens. And then we conclude now, we're finishing towards the end now. So he spends all of his day being distracted by his multiple social media accounts. And when he comes home, what happens? He greets his family, he opens the door, the kids come running in, he picks his one son up, picks his daughter up. How you doing? Yeah, great. How's your day been? Great. Okay, fantastic. Do you mind going to the next room, please? I just want to go on my phone now. That's it, that's the interaction. Because he has to keep interacting on the smartphone. He can't say, okay, let me just switch my smartphone off, because he can't switch off. He just has to have the 5-10 minute conversation with his kids or his family, his wife, whatever, and then he's like back on the sofa and he's going through his accounts. So that basically is the day in the life of a narcissist. So we've gone through the socials, we've gone through the science, we've gone through the narcissism. There is some other research that looks at the recent one. I had it in the laptop, but I couldn't connect it. Even the self-harm images we had on BBC. I think there was a 15-year-old girl who killed herself because these are dangerous areas that you go into, you know, dark spaces, you know, certain social media sites. There was a girl who was linked to a certain community which was all about suicide, and she ended up killing herself because, you know, you build that rapport. Say, go on, kill. You don't know what it's like on the other side. And then she was 15, she killed herself. There was another girl, I think Becky Smith, I had it on the laptop. So she was on this self-harm on Instagram, where she would show self-harm images, so slash here, burn here, cut here. I say, oh, that's not that bad, let me show you one. Boom. Injecting themselves, making bleed, stab. Self-harm images on Instagram. So you get sucked into these horrible kind of places. And then you got grooming, and you got all these other horrible things that take place. So, like I said, it's not really black and white, like, you know, it's good, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, we can open up a whole can of worms in terms of those things. So, that's all covered now. And now let's look at it from Islamic perspective. So now we've understood. Let's look at it from, we've got 10 minutes, then we're finished. Let's now look at it from a bigger perspective. You only have a certain amount of time in the dunya. It could be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran the importance of the day of judgment. Yes, Allah mentions اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. That the day of reckoning, the day of judgment, is getting closer and closer. Yet mankind is heedless. That's what basically that verse means. What does that mean? So when this was revealed at that time, what was preoccupied mankind at that time? They were just like ghafil, preoccupied with, I don't know, whatever it was. They weren't really akhirah orientated. That was then. Imagine now, when we're spending 6 to 7 hours a day knowing that since the beginning of time, when Adam alayhi salam was created, up until the last person on the earth, we are here from an Islamic perspective to be worshipping Allah and doing good deeds, and like I mentioned before, harvesting those things that on the Day of Judgment will be rewarded for. So the main thing is time. Where's our time going? Allah swears by time. You know the basic surah you all know? Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verily through time man is lost. We're all in a perpetual state of loss. Every second, every hour, every minute that goes by, man is in a state of loss, except for who? Those who utilize their time efficiently and effectively. They make the most of every hour, every minute, every second. They're those who have iman, they call towards the truth, they bear it with patience. Again, we have to take a step back and look at ourselves. How are these devices helping us for the great day that every prophet forewarned his nation or told his nation that, look, you're only here for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, maybe not even that. But certainly you will die and you will be raised back up. So how are we preparing for the akhirah? This surah, Wal Asr, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, great scholar, he said that if only this one surah where Allah swears by time, there's only a few places in the Quran that Allah promises and He swears. One of them is this surah. If this surah, which only is about 3 or 4 lines, if this was only revealed, this would have been sufficient for us to give us a roadmap about where we're going in life. You don't have to reveal 30 chapters. Makkah period, the Madni period, this is about this, and this is the laws about inheritance, and the laws about this, and these stories about Jesus and Moses and Abraham. You don't need all of that. If there's only 3 verses that gave you a roadmap about where you're going in life, it would have been this surah, Wal Asr. It's like a wake-up call that we don't waste time. Hassan al-Basri was a great scholar. He said, O son of Adam, you're only a number of days. Every time a day passes, a part of you also passes. In another narration he said, O son of Adam, you're only 3 days. For what was yesterday has gone. You know, yesterday, what you did is gone, and it will be sent forth to the Day of Judgment. You can't go back to the future. I don't know how many times you watch Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future. Yeah? You guys are not old enough to watch. Yeah? You would go back to the future. You can't do that. Whatever you did yesterday will present itself on the Day of Judgment. So yesterday's gone. Tomorrow, he said, you're not guaranteed. You don't know tomorrow. Me, you, we're not guaranteed. Anything could happen. We could be leaving here tomorrow, anything, morning, wake up in the morning, anything. Today, he said, you have present. Today is the only time you have. Make use of today. The day, the here and the now. So this is the importance of productivity. And the next generation, the Prophet really, talks about this, how to get the Rahmat Trust queue in there as well. The Prophet, in a beautiful narration, he talked about the 5 stages in life that we go through and the importance of productivity or valuing time. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Ightanim khamsan qabla khamsin." Take care of 5 before 5. And he began by saying, "Shababak qabla haramik." Shababak is your youth. From an Islamic perspective, you're considered a youth from the age of puberty up until 40. Yeah, so if you got any uncles that give them the thumbs up, be happy. So you're still from the youth. Yeah? So the Prophet is saying, look, you go through these phases, take advantage, because when you get old and 50 or 60, you're going to wish you're going to go back, so take advantage. He also said, health before sickness, ghina qabla faqrik, richness before poverty, because you could have, anything could happen to you, and you could lose wealth. What did you do when you had wealth? That's the key thing. Free time before you're preoccupied. Again, you have free time now, but you could become preoccupied. Faraghat qabla shughlik. The Messenger said that's what it means. Faraghat qabla shughlik. That take care of your free time before you get preoccupied. What's a good example of that? Okay, you've got free time now. You can choose what to do, what not to do. And then a few months later, you are diagnosed with a terminal illness. Not through a fault of your own. The doctors just pick something up in a blood test and they go, look, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to keep you in for 3 or 4 months. You can't leave your hospital room. You are now preoccupied with something and you're wishing, and you're in your room saying, oh, There's a million and one things I wish I could do. But when you had the opportunity to do them, what did you do? You wasted our time. So the Prophet is forewarning that, look, there will be times in your life when you are preoccupied. So when you are not preoccupied, make use. And he finished by saying, the final one, وَالْحَيَاتَكْ قَبْلَ مَوْتِكَ, and your life before your death. Because we don't know any time, it's not guaranteed, it could be anything. A car accident, it could be a heart attack, it could be a stroke. We've had footballers, fit people who die on the pitch, professional footballers. Islamically, for us, we believe in the predestiny, the qadr, that's already decreed when a person is going to die. And for us, it's when God wants to take the person back, it's about what did you do in your life? How did you maximize the time, the gift that we gave you? So the main thing is maximizing the time and not wasting it. How does that relate Islamically? Something else, from a community cohesion, or you can talk about brotherly love and all that. How many times have we got into arguments because of social media? Yeah? What did you say? Come round, mate. Let's bring the boys down. Next thing you know, it just goes out of control. We backbite. We slander each other. We're so opinionated nowadays that we don't care how many people we hurt. We just need to express ourselves because it's my right. But you don't know who you're going to upset. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, say something good or stay silent. That was the prophetic advice 1400 years ago. Imagine now, we can't wait. We're like, why isn't my comment uploading, man? I thought my internet's slow here. I just said, how dare you? You can't wait to, say something back. You can't wait to retaliate. Whereas the Prophet is saying, look, if it's going to lead to bad feeling, if it's not nothing good, don't say it. These devices have given us the opportunity to just launch at people. And because of this, we see so many fights and things that are taking place. So that's another harm. 2 or 3 more slides and we're done. Okay, and another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, there are 2 blessings that the son of Adam, mankind, is normally deprived of, meaning that he doesn't really value. نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. 2 blessings, the health and free time. It's only when you lose it, then you value it. You lose your health, you're like, oh gosh, I enjoyed it when I was able to walk, run, whatever. Now I can't walk. And free time. If something happens to you, you're locked up or whatever, you're like, oh, I wish I could go out and smell the air. I had free time, but now I'm restricted. Let's look at health. Health. Health is something that we value in Islam. The fast food culture. In this country, the NHS said that 6% of deaths are linked to, the youngsters and teenagers, you're going to hate this, but it's linked to obesity and fast food culture. Like everything, like cholesterol, heart attack, blood pressure, all these are linked to the food that we eat. So we got this problem here in Yemen. You've got people who are dying because of lack of food, and here we have people who are dying because of overconsumption of food. So, am I having a dig here at food? No. I'm talking about the way we glamorize food. Instagram, here's a greasy doner kebab, oh look at that. Yeah, here's a strawberry cheesecake that's got 50,000 calories, it's going to kill you easily, but have a look at that. And we're promoting the junk food culture. We're promoting trans fatty acids. We're promoting all this stuff. And what does Allah say? Not many of you know that who follow Islam here. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? It's closely linked to the Christian concept as well. I'll tell you what this is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Kulu means eat. Washrabu means drink. Allah is saying eat and drink. Wa la tusrifu, but don't be over excessive. Innahu la yuhibbul musrifin. Indeed, I don't like those who are over excessive. A concept called gluttony. Right? When you indulge, you eat 4 or 5 times a day. Not only are we doing that, we're promoting it. Here's a picture of the latest doner kebab and this, that. And this is really bad because it's affecting our health. And I'm talking about 40, 50-year-old men sometimes. It's this culture that we're promoting, and sometimes we need to take a step back and say, look, really, what are we doing here? People are dying, they've got no food, and we're just like glamorizing, and it's affecting our health. It's not very good for us. trans fatty acids, cholesterol, arteries, blood pressure, all these issues, diabetes, and we're promoting it. So that's, again, smartphones, social media, we get lots of pictures that are being posted. Okay, solutions, quickly. 2 slides. What are the solutions? Let's begin the spiritual solutions. Spiritual, Islamic solutions. You have to turn back to Allah. Now that you've understood, you've got your radar sorted now, you know where you're going in life, you've got a roadmap now, you say, Ya Allah, I've wasted time. I've wasted 6-7 hours a day with no vision, with no purpose, just idly going through the phone like this. Ya Allah, please, you turn back to Allah. You make a concerted effort. You say, Ya Allah, I'm going to turn back to you. I have a vision now. I've got certain milestones I'm going to have in my life. I've got certain key performance indicators that I'm going to say, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to get this, I'm going to become like this. Right? So you have these milestones. That's the first thing. You turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you reconnect with Allah. What does that mean? You actually build a relationship up with God. You talk to God, you ask Allah, you speak to God, instead of throwing all your problems out to the world. That's what we're getting now. We're getting people, because we want that sympathy from the people, so it gives us that little bit of dopamine. We start putting things up on Facebook where we should really be, if from a spiritual perspective, asking Allah. I have a driving test tomorrow. Ya Allah, please make it. Ask Allah, pray to Allah. You don't have to put it on Facebook so that everybody's saying Ameen, Ameen. It means we're trivializing the purpose and the relationship we're supposed to have with Allah, and we keep asking the people. For example, Allah says in the Quran, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ وَادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah says, call upon me, I will answer your du'as. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاءِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Allah says, when they ask you concerning me, where am I? Where is Allah? How is Allah? This, that. Tell the people, I am close to you than your jugular vein with my knowledge. Meaning Allah knows through these attributes of knowledge what exactly is taking place in your life. Then Allah says, ask me and I will answer your supplications. We like to put everything on Facebook. And we like to put, just to get that sympathy. It's been 1 year since my leg operation, 1 year since he's died, she's died. And I always look at it from, because I work in the charity sector, I look at it from, war-torn conflicts, like Syria, what happened. Look at what happened in the Rohingya community. Because we want to get that kind of validation from people, saying, don't worry, brother, they'll be fine. Like that metaphorical hug, or some support. What about in Syria? What about when bombs were being dropped and indiscriminate civilians were being killed, and a mother had to bury her own children, having lost her husband, her father, because her house was targeted? She didn't have like a Facebook account to say, I've just had to do that. She's reading all the comments saying, don't worry, sister, you be patient. She went home to an empty house, destroyed. But her spirits were high. Why? Because they had Allah. They could connect with Allah. And when you connect with Allah, you don't need people's sympathy. You don't need people's support, because you have Allah who is with you. But what we tend to do, generally, is we want to get people's support. And what happens over time? People they get fed up. Because sometimes when you impose your emotions on other people, they get fed up that you're having a good time. Like you say, everybody's having a good time now. Then you keep looking at your phone, and then I happen to put something else on for the 10th time. I'm missing my child who died last year. It's sad that my child died, but if I keep imposing and projecting my emotions onto other people, it affects your day as well. Then you start becoming, and then you say, I don't need that. So isn't it better to connect with Allah and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the prayer that I mentioned, like it's in the Quran, and also it's better to post your sadness on the prayer mat than on Facebook. So this is the level of iman that we should have. That if you are going through difficult times, ask Allah. Yeah? That's the main thing. That's the spiritual solution. And then now let's look for a normal solution. Okay, so you've got technological solutions. You've got off time, break free, and moment. These are just 3 apps that you can download. There's a whole plethora. So many apps out there that can regulate the amount of time that you go on any of the social media apps. So you just have to download them, and then you set up a pin, and then lose the pin, because your brain's going to say, okay, you're going to try and override the pin later on, aren't you? Because when you lock yourself out, you put down like, okay, for 1 hour I'm not going to go on Facebook. So when you go on Facebook for 1 hour, 1 minute, you're automatically locked out. But what's going to happen? You're going to say, that's too much for me. You're going to go back into your PIN, and you're going to change the settings, and you're going to increase it to 2 hours. So best thing to do is to, when you first download it, just close your eyes, set up a PIN, and then set it up for, okay, Facebook 1 hour a day, Instagram half an hour, whatever it is, and then you know you're only spending 1.5 hours a day, and then make sure you don't know what the PIN is, and then you're locked. So anytime you go higher or above and beyond, you can't use Facebook for that specific day. Yeah? So these are apps, and there's so many other apps. You know, some of the latest phones, you don't need the apps. They're already built in. Not this one. This is not. I'm just giving you an example. I think the latest Android, the iPhones, they've got them built in as customary settings, so you don't have to download any app. They're just like factory settings. How long do you want to go on Facebook? Okay, yes, because they're understanding and realizing what the problem is. 2 more slides. Another way to get rid of your addiction is to actually spend time with your family. Have real, meaningful relationships. These are not meaningful. These are not real. If you want to have a release of endorphins in your brain, really go spend time with your family. Go to the rural areas. Go anywhere, you know, and spend time. Enjoy family life. Enjoy picnic. Enjoy running around. Enjoy, just get away from the hustle and bustle that's draining you, and spend time. And you tell me how you feel. And that's something that we're actually missing. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِنَّ لِأَهْلِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. Your family has rights over you. Yeah? Your body has rights over you. Yeah, the family comes first. You know, we neglect family because the husband's not talking to the wife, the wife's not talking to the husband, the child not talking to the father, because everybody is what? Immersed in their phones. Let go of everything and reconnect as a family, and reconnect with friends. And I mean real friends. Not your Facebook friends. People you don't know, just because they like you, and stuff like this, and then you know, you they're not your real friends. Your real friends are people who you grew up with, you had memories with. When you sit down, you talk to each other, you can really bond and connect. They'll tell you, I remember when we used to be in Mrs. Smith's class at secondary school, and you got taken out because you're being naughty. And you can actually talk about these and reminisce about having, instead of having a friend from down south London, you never met him, but he's always got an opinion and he gets on well with you on Facebook, and then you happen to go to London and you say, can I meet you? And he's like, yeah. You meet him in a Costa, like happened to me a few times. I do footballs up and down the country, and I meet a few people. I'm coming up to Bolton tomorrow, are you? Yeah, I'll meet you there. And then they're the exact opposite of what they're like on the Facebook. They're very opinionated on Facebook. They've got, and you're thinking, okay, I know this guy for 6 years, he's very opinionated, I've never met him, so I'm in for a very kind of a hectic, kind of a busy conversation with this person. And he enters, the guy, like a very quiet guy. You? Yeah. Okay. You want a coffee? Yes, please. This is what social media does. It gives people a platform, and it gives them a voice, and you think, you think you've kind of got a personality or something, but they're not real people. Your real friends are the ones who you actually physically grew up with, the ones you can put a face to, the ones you can engage with, the ones, the body language and all that. Not these cyber friends. Okay, so that's another thing. And also, when you do meet up with your friends, please put your phones away. Yeah, because when you go to a restaurant, this is what we do. If we go to a restaurant, we look at the menu, put all our phones in a basket here. Yeah, the first person to go for the phone has to pay for the entire meal. Yeah, because we're here to talk to each other. How's your day been? Yeah, what's that? As opposed to, how's your day been? Yeah, I understand, yeah. Oh, tough time, isn't it? Yeah. But look at each other, because from a akhlaq perspective, manners perspective, it's really poor manners. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is narrated that when he was conversing with somebody, like he's talking to somebody, and somebody called him from there, he wouldn't just say like this, oh, okay, he would actually turn his body full and give that person, so when he's finished with this person, he would turn his body full and give that person the time of the day, you can call it. You can look at the person, body language, gestures, yes, look into the eyes, as opposed to, yeah, okay, and like, no. And imagine when we're sitting with people and we're just like, yeah, give them the time. Show them that you value them. Show them that you respect them. So that's very important. And final one is, okay, yes, so neuroplasticity. We talked about hardwiring, yeah. The great news is that all that hardwiring, all that neural pathways that are really dug in there like trenches, cemented themselves into your brain. You've got certain behavioural patterns that you think are never going to go. They will go. Over time, like I said, it takes about 60 days, 2 months. But once you set up a new behaviour, let's say you want to start exercising. It'll be difficult for the first few weeks, but then once you get those neural pathways going, it will get rid, or it will erase the existing one. So existing one was going on smartphone. You won't really want to go on smartphone because you're doing another set of behaviors that is more enjoyable. It's linked, the dopamine and all that is linked, right? So this is very important. Another way is like if people get up in the morning and they want to get up in the morning, they've got early bird catches the worm. If you want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the first few weeks are going to be difficult. But if you can get up at 5 in the morning, regardless, after the first few weeks, when those neural pathways are created, for the rest of your life, you'll be getting up at 5 in the morning because the habit's been set. That's why people who go to the army and they're like, attention, 5 o'clock in the morning, jogging, once they leave the army, that behavior is with them for life. So you need to change those neural pathways and with new ones, new set of behaviors that can be created, and you'll see that you'll spend less time on the smartphone. And the last one, the mother of all slides. Unfortunately, this is a sad reality, that if you're still struggling spiritually, the solutions don't appeal to you. From a technological perspective, they don't appeal to you because you've tried. Then there is an actual 24-hour confidential help and advice line. It's called Social Media Rehab Clinics for Addiction. One of many. It's called UK Rehab. This is the reality of the situation. You can actually call them anytime. You should get one of you guys to call them. Just joking. Loudspeaker, hello. But this is real. I'll Google this, and you can, in your own discretion, you can call, and you'll have professionals who will speak to you, will try and guide you through. But this is the gravity and the reality of the situation that we're dealing with. That it's not just somebody saying, "Oh, get off the phone." Real issues that are associated with smartphone addiction, and as a result, social media addiction is. We have rehab clinics that have been set up. So I just want to conclude. 1 hour 25 minutes. I think I've gone a bit over. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to really maximize and make use of our time. And I hope you've all benefited, and I hope that you've all taken some things on board to see how these things affect you. They affect you psychologically, they affect your concentration levels, they affect your self-esteem. Me personally, I go on social media, I'd say 1 hour a day, and that too only because I'm a CEO of a charity, and the way the charities work in our sector, they really want to save costs. So instead of having somebody who's an online marketing, whatever, I also have to be uploading and posting and building the brand of the charity. So I have to upload, I'm doing a talk here, I'm doing this here, doing that, and as a result we get a rahmah that gets branded. But now minimizing the amount of time that I'm spending on Facebook. I used to spend about 3 or 4 hours on Facebook before, since 2014 when I joined. Now that Ar-Rahmah Trust is stable, it's doing quite well, I've come down to 1 hour a day, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. Seriously, it's amazing. Half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, it's absolutely amazing. You're not affected psychologically, emotionally with what's going on in the world. You're actually in the here and the now. You focus on what's in front of you, you experience everything, you enjoy, you can touch, taste, feel what's around you. And it really brings the whole meaning to life. If you are on the smartphones and you're hooked on it, it's a difficult one. So I hope you all enjoyed. Any questions you want to take? Generally, a lot of the questions are answered through the talk. I don't really get many questions. Only I get questions from a younger or a parental audience who say, "When's the best time to give my child a smartphone?" Yeah, with the child sitting there as well, like that. And I say, look, there's no answer. You can't say, he has to be 16 or she has to be 16. There's no such thing. Why? Because even 10-year-olds they have smartphones, 11-year-olds. So imagine your child, your brother or sister is in a classroom full of 30 people, and everybody else has got a smartphone, and everybody else is like going like that, and your brother's just sitting there, and he's getting abused. Your daddy can't afford a smartphone for you. And he's feeling insecure. And he comes home and goes, "Dad, I wish I didn't have a dad like you. Everybody else has got a phone. Why? All that." And they feel distant, they feel alienated, they feel upset. So it's not black and white that only when you get to a certain age you can have it. No, it's not that. You know, there's more dynamics at play. So I always say, build a relationship with your child, have privacy settings, tell your child the harms of social media, the harms of grooming, the harms of all these things that are happening, and then, you know, inshallah, you'll see. Yeah, but you can't say you can't have a phone when everybody else in their classroom has a phone. And they feel so insecure, they come home always really upset, crying. You know, so that's the normal question that we get. But other than that, fine. Sorry, you were going to conclude. Yeah, khalas. That's it anyway, all done. So, yeah, from my side, I think I'm finished, and I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards every one of you for coming here, and anything you find beneficial, please share with others around you. Okay.